Hey everybody, welcome to Trapped in a World, the Howard the Duck podcast. This is episode 3, and I am your host, Knol, and I'm here with my good friend, Russell. Say hi, baby.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm feeling a little quacked out, but
A little tired.
Yeah, but I'm ready to get this duck on the row.
Get the duck on the road. Okay, well, this episode we are going to be discussing, finally, Howard's own solo series, Volume 1 of Howard the Duck, number 1 and number 2 from the 70s. I thought before we got into it, we haven't really discussed much about ourselves yet on this podcast. So I thought maybe, well, everybody knows now that your name is Russ.
Yeah.
So that a first name is good. We don't need to use last names. We don't want anybody hunting us down, but I do want your exact address.
Quacker Street.
No, basically, like, how did you get into comic books? Since that's the relevant thing that we're talking about.
I feel like I got into comic books the same way a lot of kids my age did, in that it came
Batman the animated series.
Yeah,
was it really
Batman, X-Men, Spider-Man, those 90s animated series kind of gave way to my love of the characters. My dad read comics when he was young, but he fell off. Usually, most normal people fall off when they get into their teenage years and never go back. But he always liked watching those shows with me and stuff. And he would tell me about, I remember when comics were just 35 cents. And I was like, yeah. So yeah, basically between cartoons and my dad and action figures, that's how I got into comics.
Oh, cool. And then that just branched out to all kinds of other geek culture, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Because I know you're a big fan of like horror and things like that, right? Horror movies and other media. Yeah, big into the toys for a while. Still probably are, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in my toy room right now.
Oh, cute. Have you been into comics since you were watching those cartoons? Did you go and pick up your dad say, here you go, here's an issue of whatever?
I'd say it came a little bit later, probably when I was like 10, because
that seems to be a prime age that's about when I got into comics too.
Yeah, because my dad would like bring home, I make it sound like he did it all the time. He didn't. He brought home like a huge box of like comics that he had found at like a flea market or something. Trying to remember some of the first comics that also, another thing that really helped was the early Marvel Legends figures came packed with comics.
Oh, they did?
Yes. So I had a lot of those. But some of the first comics that I actually remember having and holding and reading and looking at, it was an issue of Fantastic Four. I can't remember the number. It was when She-Hulk was on the team.
Ooh, that's a good era.
And like there's Dr. Doom lingering over a building, although at the time I thought, hey, this is Dr. Doom. No, this is Kristoff.
The third best Dr. Doom.
Yeah. So yeah, I remember that. I remember issue 1 of the Adjectiveless Spider-Man, Todd McFarlane's. And so I had like random issue of Darkhold, Book of Sins.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was just kind of all over the place. But the one that stands out in my brain is that Fantastic Four. I wish I could remember what number that was. Yeah. I'll have to pick that one up.
Oh yeah. If you don't have, I'm sure you can find it for cheap.
Yeah.
A lot of that era isn't always necessarily the most expensive stuff, But have you been into comics then pretty much since then? You've been following along?
Pretty much ever since.
You didn't do the high school drop off?
No. Oh. No, I didn't. Because that's actually when I started to read more. I've never been diagnosed with ADD, but I feel like I'm probably around there. Like, it's really hard for me to read sometimes. I can't focus. But I think that's why I love comics so much, is because it's something to look at and read.
Yeah.
But
words and pictures. So if you lose your focus on one thing, you can just stare at the art for a while.
Actually, I tried something new for the first time the other day. Listeners might remember that I've been reading every Doctor Strange comic in order. Mm-hmm. Well, I was kind of in one of those moods where I was like, I want to read, but I'm having trouble focusing. Why don't I put on some music? And I said, what music goes with Doctor Strange? Psychedelic rock.
Oh, of course.
And that was really cool experience. Like, I got a wide variety of music. I wouldn't say the words necessarily went with the comic, but the music sure did.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's cool. I got into comics around the same age, like age 10. No, like, real reason. There wasn't any impetus outside of comics. There was I guess the impetus would have been candy. I got an allowance, and there was not a spinner rack, but an actual like wall rack of comics at the pharmacy where I would go buy candy. And something, I don't remember what it was, probably Spider-Man, caught my attention, and I had a little leftover money. So whatever, I don't know, comics were maybe 50 cents or 75 cents then. So I'm a little bit older than Russell, and a lot bit older than Russell. And I picked up something off the rack, and then just, started, buying less candy and buying more comics. And then eventually, comic shop opened pretty close to my house too. And I just started going there and, going through there. It probably wasn't even a quarter bin, a nickel bin. I don't know what it was, but buying, back issues like a random Silver Surfer. That's how I got, into Moon Knight, was through Fist of Khonshu. And just, picking up whatever it was. And, I was buying Howard the Duck comics. And then eventually a little later, by around kind of junior high, I'd moved to a different, I'm from the Twin Cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul. So I lived in St. Paul and moved to Minneapolis around 12 or 13, like 13 or 14, something like that. There was another comic shop there right in my neighborhood, and they carried a lot more independent stuff, and started getting into Ninja Turtles, and this would have been right around, early, like I picked up, like third pressing of number 1, like off the rack or whatever it was, and all the other kind of strange, I'm going to try to pronounce the word again. I can never say it right. Anthropomorphic animal comics, because there were a lot after. I mean, I would say Howard was very influential in some of that black and white boom stuff. But, there were so many that I picked up, and I wish I held on to any of them, but I did not. But then I did have the fall off in high school when music and girls started to come around. And then comics weren't, some of the last comics I actually got were, I think, like Judge Dredd, things like that. And then eventually it was just like, I don't, if I'm going to spend money on anything, it's going to, to go see a shitty movie downtown with a girl. and not, or, on some guitar strings, because I've been playing music my whole life.
So what comic brought you back?
Probably Moon Knight, actually. I think the Warren Ellis, Declan Shelby run on Moon Knight really, I started coming back just because of the Marvel movies. A lot of us old folks, started watching those movies again and being like, oh yeah, I remember this. This stuff was great. So, I was just watching all the movies, and someone had pointed out how cool the art was from Declan Shelby for Moon Knight. So that would have been around 2000. When was that? 2004? I mean, not 14, not 2004.
Right.
So not that many years ago. And then I just dove back in, and, I still don't read everything that comes out every week. Speaking of Moon Knight, that's the only series I pick up on a regular basis since it's come back. But
until they bring Howard back.
Yeah, which hopefully they will. And, and I've been collecting since around then. I've been recollecting all the Howard books. I've got most of volume 1. a bunch of other stuff. Marvel 2-in-1, because The Thing was another one of my favorites from when I was a kid. And I had a lot of those. So kind of just re-catching up on a lot of stuff that I either had or missed out on. But that's, got me back into not complete obsession with things, but a sort of obsession, at least with certain niche comics and characters. It's got me really into a lot of indie comics too, from 80s up until today. A lot of more strange stuff, kept trying to catch up on a lot of that stuff. Dan Klaus has a lot of work, like the 8-Ball comics. I've been trying to collect all of those. I tend to like really weird things. So it's not like I'm picking up every, Batman issue, because I just don't find that very interesting. But anyway, that's enough of that bullshit. Let's get into some real bullshit, and let's talk about Howard the Duck Volume 1, Number 1.
Quack, quack.
Howard the Barbarian. I'll just read out the credits here. The cover is by Frank Brunner and Glennis Ween. The cover date is January 76. Editor-in-chief was Jerry Conway at this point, so young little Jerry Conway was already promoted for, I think, the 2 weeks or whatever. He was
like 24 right now. It's like
super young, and if I remember correctly, he didn't really want the job, but he just took it for a little while. And of course, the writer is Steve Stanley Gerber. Penciler is Frank Stanley Brunner. Inker is Steve Stanley Laihola. Okay. Colorist Frank Brunner. Letterer John Costanza. And the editor was Marv Stanley Wolfman.
Yes. Real quick. Mm-hmm. What do you think about Marv Wolfman?
I think he's a wolf man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have anything against him. I've read some stuff that I absolutely love from the guy. I don't think I'm not an aficionado on Marv Wolfman stuff, but I can't think of anything I have read from him I've really enjoyed.
I like Marv Wolfman. Everyone talks about his Teen Titans run, which that's kind of what he's most famous for.
Right.
And then, of course, Tomb of Dracula.
Oh, yeah. He was... I can see why the comics would maybe give him shit, because he was writing some horror and his name is Wolfman. And and of course, the Wolfman writing the Batman. Somebody at DC was just like, okay, that makes sense.
Speaking of Batman, he kind of makes a cameo in this.
Well, let's get into it.
All right. At the mouth of the horribly polluted Cuyahoga River outside Cleveland, Ohio, Howard the Duck contemplates his lot in life and comes to the conclusion that he should commit suicide because he is unable to make a living in a world of hairless apes.
Poor Howard.
It got dark quick.
It got real dark real quick. It's approved by the Comics Code Authority, and I looked it up, and suicide, at least from a word search on the Wikipedia page, is not on the list, but I'm sure if he did it, then they probably wouldn't have been approved.
Spying a tower out in the middle of the river, Howard rides a log there and decides to scale the tower and jump off. As he climbs, he realizes the tower is made out of credit cards. Reaching a window near the top, Howard enters for a rest and comes face to face with a woman dressed like Princess Leia in Return of the Jedi meets a flower child. Princess Leia probably didn't even exist yet.
No.
At this point.
Well, we know that the creator of Star Wars was a big fan of Marvel Comics. So.
Especially Howard.
Mm-hmm.
I thought she looked more like Red Sonja.
Yeah,
but
it's that thing. The eye make. Yeah. I really like her eye makeup.
Killing a barbarian mystically transformed into a dog by fluke, Howard meets his captor, Prorata. Prorata is a magician that uses accounting skills in order to command his magic and hopes to obtain this jeweled key that once used at midnight with his cosmic adding machine will allow him to become a god. Explaining his origin, Prorata knocks Howard out. Meanwhile, in New York City, J. Jonah Jameson sends Peter Parker on an assignment to the armpit of America, Cleveland, Ohio, in order to confirm reports of a talking duck and to take pictures. While back in Cleveland, Howard revives and finds that he's been changed into barbarian garb. He and metallic bikini-clad woman are then sent to another dimension to collect the jeweled key. There, Howard is mistaken for a hatchling bond bird and is attacked by a barbarian on a steed. Howard manages to break his joust, causing the barbarian to wipe out and gets knocked unconscious. Commandeering his steed, Howard and his companion travel to the Temple of the Jeweled Key. There they find it guarded by stone statues and suspended over a pit of spikes. Putting his mind into how to get the key and chomping on a cigar to boot, Howard has his companion hold his helmet over the pit while he flicks his cigar at the rope suspending the key over the pit. The ploy works, the cigar burning through the rope and making the key land in the helmet. Leaving the temple, they are attacked by the stone statues and the bond bird, which destroys the statues. The woman introduces herself as Beverly Switzler, a artist model. As the creature approacheth the pair, they are transported back to Earth along with the bond bird. When Prorata commands Howard to give him the key, Howard tosses it off the tower. However, it is caught by the arriving Spider-Man, who has been drawn to the tower when its upper levels were blasted open by the Bond Bird. As Spider-Man battles the Bond Bird, Prorata attempts to blast him with a mystic bolt. However, Howard throws his scabbard at the mystic, causing him to misfire and ignite the pollutants in the Cuyahoga instead. In an act of heroism, Howard then knocks himself and Prorata over the edge. However, Howard is saved by Spider-Man with the web slinger's webbing, unlike how he tried to save Gwen Stacy. And Prorata lands in the fire to perish alone. After thanking Spider-Man for his help, Howard and Beverly bid the wall crawler farewell as he webs off to capture the Bond Bird.
Yes, yes, yes. The web foot meets the web head.
Yes.
So, what did you think of Howard the Duck #1?
Well, this one was obviously insane. I didn't find this one as funny as the Hell Cow.
No, of course not.
But
nothing's funnier than the Hell Cow.
I love the art. Howard looking especially cute. We got some iconic, I love this panel of him getting mad and giving us a wow. But, introducing us to Beverly, who I assume is going to be a major character.
Oh, yeah.
It was cool seeing Howard and the barbarian stuff. Obviously, Conan was huge at this time, at
big,
Marvel.
I think Steve Gerber really loved to send up all the barbarian stuff that was so huge in the 70s. I don't know if he liked it or thought it was stupid or both, but he loved to send it up.
Because Marvel not only had, Conan, they had Cull, and Kill Raven was kind of in that same vein. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that was around this time.
Yeah, but there were Kazar comics happening and just all that kind of stuff. What was the Jack Kirby creation about the boy? And Commandy, yeah.
Yeah. John Carter, Warlord of Mars, was around this time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was cool. I like this issue. I was not expecting the suicide angle.
Yeah, just right. That's kind of sad, really.
Yeah, right off the bat, we're depressed.
Well, just the way he says it, it's got all the behold a depressed duck. That's the first line in the whole comic, and then he talks about how he's saved the city of Cleveland twice already from the man frog and the Hell Cow. And what thanks does he get but be put in jail? And then Howard's first line is suicide. Yeah, well, maybe.
Yeah,
and I think anybody looking at the Cuyahoga River in Cleveland would maybe be contemplating more sad stuff. It's one of them was. I don't know if it still is, but I know they've tried to save it. one of the most polluted rivers in the whole world. It's just disgusting. Like the drawings here of it are not exaggerated that much.
They're not wrong about it being the armpit of America.
Yeah, I think that was a quote from the comic. Doesn't Peter Parker or J. Jonah Jameson, one of the two, say the armpit of America, Cleveland, Ohio?
Yeah. I think the Bond bird, I hope I'm saying that right, looks like a reference to the classic B movie, The Giant Claw. Are you familiar with that?
I am not.
So it's this really bad, notoriously bad Mystery Science Theater bad levels giant monster movie with the worst kaiju bird monster you've ever seen. And it's called the Giant Claw. And it kind of looks like the bird in this, except the bird in this looks better. Spider-Man being in this was just weird. You know why he was in this.
Oh, of course. You got to sell it.
But it was pretty hilarious how he interacts because he does not want to be there.
No. Jameson says, just go to Cleveland. And he's just like, Cleveland, a duck. I'm going to be sick. But he is wearing some groovy clothing.
Oh,
I love 70s Peter Parker clothing, man. He's just, he became from total fucking nerd to hip 70s cat, you know, with his sideburns and everything. Looks like he should be driving a motorcycle. Well, he was driving a motorcycle sometimes, wasn't he? Yeah, but then I think it's a Steve Gerber. I don't know if he thinks it's just funny to have a hero unannounced swing his way into an adventure and save the day, but it's another.
I thought it was pretty funny that Howard was like, "You don't need this key. Nobody can have it." And Spider-Man's just like, "Anybody looking for this?"
Back in Cleveland, admitted, Parker, you've been had. Jameson wins this one's. You think after years of superheroing, I developed some sort of healthy skepticism. But no, JJJ sends me to the armpit of the nation to snap pics of a talking duck, and I fall for it. And then he's like, oh shit, it's real. And there's that great panel right after Spider-Man conveniently swings his way on a helicopter out to the tower. The cute panel of Howard in his little helmet holding the key. It's so adorable. The villain is hilarious too. This is very Steve Gerber, just a little social. The tower's made of old credit cards. And what is his name? Prorata. Prorata is so funny, and that his magic is all based on accounting. It is pretty hilarious. I was listening to somebody talk about the Epic Marvel podcast that covers all the Epic collections. We're doing some of the Silver Surfer, the Starlin Silver Surfer, leading right up to the Infinity Gauntlet and the I forget what the prelude to that is, like the Thanos Quest or whatever. And it's written by Jim Starlin. There's one where it's just kind of a one-off or two-off story where Silver Surfer goes to basically goes to DC. And he goes to an alien world that he's just making fun of DC the whole time. And how they're a bunch of corporate greedy bastards. And I was like, oh yeah, Starlin kind of comes from the same Steve Gerber school of making fun of their corporate overlords. And I always really appreciate that. It's some of the, this comic doesn't start off with the strongest. It's still sort of making fun of sort of the genre or genres that surround comic books, but there is little hints of making fun of sort of the bigger world at that, especially accountants and Cleveland.
Yes.
Which are two things that deserve it.
Yes.
But overall, I agree. I mean, I enjoy it, of course, because it's a Howard the Duck comic, and it's got Spider-Man in it, and it's the introduction of Beverly, which is actually very important, and I'm glad she's brought up right in issue number 1. And I think it was because of one of Steve's frequent collaborators and friends, Mary.
I think she does the foreword in this book.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah.
And it was her suggestion to have Beverly in it because she thought, I think rightly, that comics were too much of a sausage fest, but and he needed a good companion to go through 616, and I just think she is a little, so I'm a little surprised it got approved by the Comics Code with how overly sexualized she is, which is, there's literally like a part in the Comics Code that says, female shall be drawn realistically without exaggeration of any physical qualities.
But you know what? Looking at this art, like, yes, she's obviously scantily clad, but she's not exactly like, I mean, I've seen a lot worse. Like, when
she's
it
not a
comes
Rob
to,
Liefeld drawing. So.
No, like, she's, I mean, some of these panels, she's looking pretty cut, but she seems more naturally built than like a woman in a Conan comic would be.
Sure, yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
they dress her up like that, but
right. She's still a normal Cleveland girl.
Yeah, she is. But I'm really glad we got the introduction of her because she becomes a very important character in most Howard stories going forth. They have like a breakup for a while and much later, but like you can't have Howard without Beverly eventually. They really do go kind of hand in hand, and you need to ground him in even though she's not necessarily the most grounded character, but for the Marvel universe, she's pretty damn grounded. So,
yeah.
But overall, I think it's very fun. And the artwork more than anything is what really gets me on this one.
Yeah.
Frank Brunner.
I love
his Spider-Man's a little strange.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite, his horror background maybe didn't quite educate him into how to draw Spider-Man so well. It doesn't look bad. It's just like, around this time we had John Romita. Was that 75? Would that still be?
I think that's too early. Yes.
Would that be too...
It might be Gil Kane.
It might be Gil Kane at this point. Yeah, you're right.
Or Ross Andrew, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know.
But everything else looks great. And Spidey doesn't look bad. It's just like not quite as dynamic as he would normally look in his own comics at this point. Yeah. Well, that was issue number 1. And let's take a quick break and then we will cover issue number 2.
This is Phil Parrish from the Capes and Lunatics podcast, and you are listening to Trapped in a World, the one, and for some reason only, Howard the Duck podcast. You've got to be duckin' kidding me.
Welcome back to Trapped in a World, the Howard the Duck podcast. Russell and I now will cover Howard the Duck issue number 2 from 76, it says. Howard the Duck volume 1, number 2. Cry Turnip. The cover by Frank Brunner again. Cover date March 76. Writer Gerber. Penciler Brunner. Inker Steve Laiola again. Colorist Michelle Wolfman. Editor Marv Wolfman. Letterer Tom Orzechowski.
Ooh.
I think I nailed it that time.
I think you did.
Orzechowski. Strong Polish name.
Yes.
Perhaps. Okay.
After reading the story Kill Mallard, written by Beverly's friend Arthur Winslow, Howard has a nightmare where he lives as the character in a horrific space opera, and he and Beverly are killed battling alien invaders. Waking up from his nightmare, Howard and Beverly talk about their escape from Pro Rataz Tower and about Beverly's friend Arthur. Arthur, an aspiring and unpublished writer, is just a friend to Beverly. However, Howard criticizes his writing and mocks him for being unpublished. He is still a little jealous of him. As the pair go to sleep, Beverly almost calls out Arthur's name when saying goodnight to Howard.
Now, do you think
such a weird sequence?
Do you think that was maybe Beverly, instead of calling out his name as they're going to sleep, was she calling out his name while she was getting a little corkscrew penis?
Do you think that's what was implied?
It could be. It could be.
Meanwhile, Arthur is spending yet another night on duty as a night watchman when he hears a crash. Investigating a warehouse with a broken window, Arthur finds a giant turnip from space. The space turnip contacts him telepathically and tells him that his name is Felch. and that it is the last survivor of its race, and that it has scoured the universe looking for the perfect host body. Arthur tells Phil Felch about how dull his life is and how he desires to become a hero in the eyes of people. The two make a deal, allowing Felch to take control of Arthur's body. Felch would give Arthur the opportunity to be a hero, and in return, Arthur would allow Felch to use his body to experience being human. The next day, Howard and Beverly are riding the bus, oh boy, when Howard is hassled by an old woman who is obsessed with the health of kidneys. The kidney lady yells at Howard for smoking on the bus. The two get into an altercation, which causes the bus to spin off the overpass. However, they are all saved by Arthur, who has become the costume hero, Turnip Man.
Garden Fresh Guardian of the Good.
Feeling that he has completed its part of the bargain, Felch then takes control of Arthur's body and kidnaps Beverly so they can make whoopee.
Woohoo! The sequence is so fucking weird, man.
It's awful, but it's... Howard chases after them, not hearing the kidney lady vowing revenge on Howard.
Dun dun dun.
Arriving at Sunspot Slope, Howard stops Turnip Man before he can make a move on Beverly, which he was failing at miserably anyway because Felch could only access Arthur's cheesy pickup line. Howard is knocked back by a mental bolt and realizes that the only way Felch would have let Arthur carve up his body and wear it as a helmet is if the stem is where his brain is. Howard then plucks the stem, causing Felch to go mad and try to get away, pulling Howard with him. Howard, however, directs Felch to a nearby smokestack and drops him in, much like Spider-Man's clone, and he's incinerated. Not unlike a... Oh, I need to start reading ahead here, because... You've beat me to these jokes here.
We think this is why we do a podcast.
Felch to a nearby smokestack drops him in, where he is incinerated, not unlike a certain web slinger's way of disposing of clones. Returning to Beverly's apartment, Arthur realizes the error of his ways and accepts the fact that life is supposed to be full of mundanities. Howard mocks him. Next, the kidney lady seeks revenge.
The kidney lady, she's wearing a mask too, and I was like,
yeah.
What year is this from?
Yeah, it's very topical.
This seems very topical. So, what did you think of Cry Turnip?
Well, I like this one a lot more
Yeah.
than the first one. This one is just ridiculous. I love the Kill Mallard sequence, which is very Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is a year before Star Wars, so...
Yeah, he's already... I mean, space opera was, I think, probably already in the zeitgeist with a lot of that.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like Star Wars was the first sort of space opera to come along in the 70s, but yeah, there is a straight up Star Wars parody later on. So,
oh boy.
But I like, there's like a McDonald's in the background.
This sequence where Felch takes over Arthur and we get like this prose section.
Oh yeah, I love that page.
It's a great page, and this is the most Jim Starlin shit I have ever seen outside of a Jim Starlin book.
It really is.
Please tell me that the kidney lady is like a recurring antagonist, because this is so stupid.
she is. Yeah, that whole page is amazing. The prose page. It's just like the conversation between Felch and Arthur is so funny. It's just like all in the mindscape, and it's two of them falling into what looks like a unimind or something.
Yeah.
Where he becomes one with the turnip. It's just all the dialogue is so hilarious. I mean, I am Felch, the turnip says telepathically. And my race was old when the stars were young. It's just so funny.
So when the turnip man kidnaps Beverly, there was two lines that definitely got a laugh out of me. One I've already referenced. I wish to experience what you meat beans term the making of whoopee.
Yeah, the turnip was hilarious.
And then Arthur, who are you talking to? What's that music? Arthur, that's the James Bond theme.
That's the James. I thought it'd be like "Let's Get It On" or something, but I don't know. And I don't know. As a musician, I can't read music, so But I might actually look up and see if that actually is the James Bond theme going by with the musical notations. That's pretty fun. I like Howard's quote when he first grabs her and takes off. He's like, "Hey, wait a minute, bub! Take your sleazy leaves off her."
Then this last page here, we get a rat man in the background looking particularly like Batman.
Yeah, they're
with some whiskers.
Yeah, they're at the writer's apartment, and he's clearly a Marvel comics or a comics book fan in general. There's looks like a Captain America back there. There's a Spider-Man, and then there's Rat Man. What's Batman?
Yeah, and
Batman with whiskers.
Yeah. And to the left there, that kind of looks like the Shadow.
Oh, it does look like the Shadow, for sure. That's real cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. The next issue is The Master of Quack Fu. So.
Oh, boy.
And look at this. Special thanks to Judo Jim Starlin for his assistance in laying out this most complicated, challenging script. So.
Well, that explains it there.
There we see a little Jim Starlin influence right in there.
You know, this was it was a funny issue, but it's actually kind of scary, kind of terrifying. The turnip taking him over and him not being able to control himself, and I can think of no worse fate for a heterosexual man than a turnip takes over your body and starts kissing the girl you like in the most awkward, awful way possible.
Yeah, that would, especially if you're trying. It's your friend.
Yeah.
Well, you've had a crush on, but this fucking turnip's fucking up everything for you, man.
Yeah, and she may or may not have fucked a duck
in your apartment.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Arthur, the author. It's pretty funny. There's that whole page too when they show a kidney lady.
Mm-hmm.
Just like bitching Howard out.
Yeah.
I love it.
You wouldn't dare. Oral intimacy disgusts me. And it plays havoc with the kidneys. What the hell? I do like that, because I've been to Cleveland, and it says that Sunspot Slope is the only place in Cleveland that gets any sun.
Yeah, mostly true.
Yes.
So, yeah, I love this too. It's a step up from the first issue, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It feels more, the first one, maybe it's more of Steve Gerber's sort of like depressive side, and maybe a little bit of editorial being, okay, first issue, you obviously got to put Spider-Man in here. Mm-hmm. And he's like, okay, he was writing. He's really big. Steve Gerber was really big at crossing over anything he was writing at the time. So if he was writing, I believe he had a run on Daredevil, and that's why in that one Man Thing issue, Daredevil and Black Widow swing in for no reason. I was like, okay, there's my continuity. He was writing Defenders. He was writing a lot of different stuff. So he was really good. I think he wrote some of the really early Marvel 2-in-1s. And so he would actually bring in continuity from other things he was writing on into this like one-off thing book. You know, like I forgot what my fucking point was. Just think about Steve Gerber, I guess. It's just like so that was a little bit of, you know, he obviously wasn't writing Spider-Man at the time, but he was good at kind of crossing things over. And later he will cross over a little bit. Like like we've talked about, there's a Defenders Howard crossover, but a lot of the times it's just like he keeps kind of Howard in his own sort of universe because, he really felt Howard was his creation, you know, and he didn't want to get him I think he didn't want to get him too mixed up in the rest of the Marvel universe. I mean, he's using a lot of Howard the Duck to make fun of the Marvel universe. So he'd rather have sort of stand-ins, I guess, than he would have the actual characters in there. But it does feel like the Marvel universe, you know, like there are characters as ridiculous as Turnip Man in real Marvel comics. So
yeah, I mean, he's not far from Stilt Man or Egghead or anything like that.
Basically any Stan Lee creation.
The living laser.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of wow in this book, which I appreciate too.
Yes.
And I really do like the fact that he just drops the turnip in a smokestack. Like smokestacks, and there's just fire shooting out at the top. Like they're not called fire stacks, people. They're smokestacks. I wonder if
had some kind of reaction.
I wonder if the turnip grabbed onto the side and then came back later.
Imagine that.
As multiple turnips.
Oh no.
So I don't know. I think it's a really good second issue.
Oh yeah, that one I liked way more than the first.
It feels more Gerbery. I think that's what I was trying to say earlier. It just feels more ridiculous and fun than the first one.
Very anxious to see the kidney lady.
Well, next up is Master of Quack Fu, as I had mentioned, with art by John Buscema. So
wow.
Wow. So the art gets a little different. This is what I was talking about before. Gene Colan, I was saying it gets a little more Marvel-y, but then when you got John in there, it's the faces look very, you know, house style, except for Howard. Howard looks nice, but I can't wait to get to there and to get further into Volume 1. And there's still only 25 cents, so this is right before your dad was buying comics.
Yep.
By the time we get to the 35-cent issues, I think we're well past issue 15. So.
He was born in 1967, so yeah, it would have been like right here or after when he would be buying comics.
Yeah, it's probably soon. Oh, if he does it like everybody and around age 10. It still would have been soon after this. Maybe he would have bought the Howard the Duck Kiss crossover, which
he loved Kiss.
Did he?
So yeah, he's one of the reasons I have that to blame.
But I guess that leaves us with episode 3 in the tank. Like I said, in a couple weeks we'll be covering issue 3 and 4. We get Quack Fu, so everyone look forward to that, and look forward to my embellished descriptions from the Marvel Wiki
that I need to read in advance.
That's okay. It's as long as you read the comic in advance. That's all that really matters. But that's it for episode 3 of Trapped in a World, the Howard the Duck podcast. We'll see you guys in a couple weeks.
I just had an accident go down in the background.
We'd love love to hear your feedback for future episodes on upcoming issues of Howard the Duck. You can send a voice memo or an email to howardpodcast@gmail.com. Our website is trappedinaworld.libsyn.com. Twitter and Instagram is Howard Duck Pod, and our Facebook page is Trapped in a World, the Howard the Duck Podcast.